right, welcome, Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan here with Thou. Keith, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how we doing?
You are my Thou. It seems like someone would catch on to that. Here at the Buddy Book Club, we're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll once again, and for the last time, be discussing Shōgun by James Clavell. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us about any past episodes, you visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or slide into our DMs, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you got. It's a Buddy Book Club podcast. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, so please download and subscribe. Keith, we did it. We did it. Honestly. Is this the longest book you've read? I have the paperback, the like airport style paperback, which is 1,154 pages. And I think the audiobook, what did we say it was? Like 51 hours?
The only longer one was Brandon Sanderson's, I think, The Second Way of Kings book.
I should honestly try to find a longer book because this is second place for me behind The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Jesus.
That one's a little bit much. And it's a very historical book on Nazi Germany, obviously. But the cover of it is just a giant swastika. So not a great...
So that's good to read on the train.
Exactly. Yeah. People just kind of give you the double take on that one. So yeah, maybe I'll have to get into that. But we're not talking about Brandon Sanderson. We're not talking about Nazi Germany. We're talking about Shōgun. Just a little insight for the listeners out there is we had recorded the last episode, which came out, which was parts 2 and 3.
That was chapters 10 through 46, I believe.
Yeah, so we recorded 2 and 3, and then you went off on a walkabout to Australia, and now you're back for our final installment. So I think where we kind of left off was Toranaga had capitulated to Zataki, and he said he was going to Osaka to face the regents. Anjin-san had recently become Hashimoto after saving Toranaga from the earthquake. His love for Mariko continues to deepen, and probably most importantly, he had some Konome Shinju stuffed up his back passage. I think that was about it.
I must have missed that part, huh?
What? The pearls? The pleasure pearls?
Oh, okay, yeah. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah. Come on. Get it together.
Yeah, all right. That's what's important.
Get that harigata out of your mouth and listen up. Here we're going to be doing the final installment, which is going to be part 4 and onwards until the end. Keith, stock up, stock down. What do you got for stock up?
Stock up House of Cards, the TV show. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is kind of going to be...
Canceled, just like that show?
No. Well, I think you described this book as an epic. And what an epic to me is typically going to be some sort of hero's journey, huge wars, big set pieces type thing. Where I think that's a little bit of a misnomer for this. I think this is more of a House of Cards or a Downton Abbey of Japan, if you will.
Dude, don't get me started on Downton Abbey.
There's nothing wrong with those. Those are great shows. I've never seen Downton Abbey, but I know I love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I think it'd be season 1 House of Cards. Like, the best season. They're like, holy shit, this is insane. Tons of drama, things like that. But the one thing that I would say disappointing is if you go in thinking it's an epic, that last couple chapters, a little bit of buzzkill. I wanted on the plane ride back, by the way, I started rewatching Lord of the Rings, and I wanted that. The defense of, in the second movie. You
wanted Helm's Deep?
I wanted Helm's Deep. Where was Helm's Deep for me, kid? I needed it. I'm so jazzed up right now. All those sex toys that you've been talking about, I'm ready to go. And then we get like an epilogue of him being like, so yeah, I won everything. It was awesome. I was like, wait, what? That's it? It was good. It was House of Cards, but I wouldn't call it an epic.
It's definitely an epic. It's not the kind of epic that you wanted, I think. And I will agree with you in that my memory of this book involved significant amounts of pitched battles in which there are actually none. So, I was also doing the thing. Granted,
does the movies have them? I can see maybe remembering the movies having more battles.
Well, it's not a movie. It's a mini series from the 80s.
Okay.
And I can't really remember how that goes. I think I just seen Last Samurai so many times, and then they both kind of blended together in my head.
That's fair.
And I was also doing the same thing where, like, at the end of this book, once I finished it, I was kind of like tipped it upside down and was shaking it to see, like, hey, are the pitch battles gonna come out of here? Like, did I miss some pages or something? So yeah, it is unfortunate that, the whole time they're talking about this inevitable war between Toranaga and Ishido, and they're posturing, they're just, the whole thing is moving pieces on a chessboard, and then all we get is like 2 paragraphs at the end, which is like, we dug a hole for his sheep, we captured him, dug a hole in the ground, and
I needed to see
the
capture and the kicking his head for 3 days in a row. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I will agree with you there. Luckily, there's a TV show coming out that I'm sure will not miss on some pitch battles. And yeah, I'm going to get into that a little bit more later. So yeah, I agree with you. But if you were interested in fighting, my first stock up is ninja. I thought the ninja scenes and just like the ninja in general is awesome. Samurais are badass. There's no question. But these ninja are incredible. I mean, the way they infiltrate Osaka Castle, the weaponry alone, they're talking about these knives that are attached to sticks with chains on them. We're talking about caltrops that are poisonous. We're talking throwing stars, like all the super fun ninja stuff. And when I was young, I feel like there was a lot more ninjas in pop culture. We obviously had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I was Leonardo for like 6 years straight for Halloween, till the point that I like couldn't fit in the costume anymore. Didn't matter to me. 3 Ninjas and 3 Ninjas Kick Back. Rocky Loves Emily. Who doesn't love those movies? And Beverly Hills Ninja. I mean, the movie's terrible. I've seen it again recently. I'm just saying the ninja idea was so ingrained into pop culture at the time that Chris Farley legitimately made a ninja movie. Yeah. So I'm wondering is there just not ninjas in pop culture anymore? Did I just grow out of it? And then I want to ask you if you ever had a ninja phase. I
wasn't big in a ninja phase. I was more of like a Navy SEAL Army phase.
Oh, okay.
I actually wanted to go to West Point until I was in middle school, and I remember looking up how to get in, and it was like you have to run 2 miles, 6-minute pace.
Yeah.
And I ran a mile, and I said, why in God's name would anyone ever want to run?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I had a ninja phase. I think I was in like kindergarten or first grade, like obsessed with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then 3 Ninjas came out, and I was like, this is freaking awesome. Like, these kids can beat up. Oh, Surf Ninjas. How do we forget about Surf Ninjas?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, wow. You should watch that movie.
I guess I didn't really understand the origins of ninjas, so that didn't really...
I think that was part of the mystique. You knew it was Asian, but you didn't know what. You thought probably Japanese, but you really didn't care. It was just... they wore cool outfits and they were stealthy and had awesome weapons. My sister's friends, like older brother, convinced me he was a ninja because he had, I was like 6, so give me a break. But he had like some throwing stars or whatever. And I was like, wow, like this is amazing.
I feel like it's the first action movie you watch, that's whatever that is, you get into. So if it's like a karate movie, you're all of a sudden like John Claude Van Damme, and you're like trying to be a karate person. I think I saw some sort of like Navy SEAL type movie that was the first action movie I ever saw. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I am now going to be a Navy SEAL, one of those things. So I think it just depends on what you see first as a kid.
How did you feel about the ninja scene in...
It's good. I mean, I thought it was cool. Again, that was like the climax, which I would have preferred to have Toranaga and that scene at some point, somewhere, something strategic around that, which it just seemed like it was a lot of backstabbing instead of cool war stuff.
It was kind of interesting that I feel like throughout this book 4 to book 6, Toranaga was like kind of in book 4 a little bit, and he was kind of in book 6. There's a whole part of Osaka Castle that he wasn't really involved in. But speaking about Toranaga, I'm going to jump into my next stock up because it's apropos, is stock up believing in your leader. So I think we're both, okay. I'm not going to speak for you, but here, let me try. I think we're both, disenchanted to some degree with our own government. I would say that we're not alone, considering that according to Pew Research Center, 20% of Americans trust the government, quote unquote, most of the time. So 20%, not pretty good. I think during the Eisenhower administration, it was probably like 90%. So it seems like what we need is a Toranaga, because his plans have plans. He's got contingencies on those plans if they don't work. We're talking about a guy who masterfully plays the Christian daimyos against one another. He's getting little whispers in his ear, sets his pieces on his chessboard, and maybe it's not even chess. He's talking falconry. He uses his peregrine falcon, Mariko. He uses her perfectly. I mean, he even associates it with chess, saying that he had to sacrifice his queen for a castle, which is fair. I don't think you'd really do that in a game of chess, maybe, but I'm not a chess player. But, setting up Zataki, I thought the way he used Anjin-san was like so good. He's the definition of he's playing chess and everyone else is playing checkers, and living through his like monologues, like he has these like inner monologues that you hear throughout the book, I thought was a really good way of approaching, because like we talked about last time, he can't say these things to other people because it's all, all the spies and whatnot. So just kind of hearing it in his words and then figuring out at the end, because the whole thing was like, who burned down the Erasmus? And it was like, oh, the Christian daimyos did it, Shido did it, whatever. It was like, no, Toranaga did it. And it was like, wait, what? So I thought it was pretty awesome just like having a leader like him in this. And I think my only real question coming out of it was whether he knew, and we could save for lingering questions, but I'm just going to ask it now, because like whether he knew that Yabu would betray him. Because he finds out at the end through Omi that Omi's guys are like, oh yeah, Yabu was down there with the ninja. So they figure it out. But did Toranaga know? Because part of his plan was for Mariko to die. So did he know Yabu would do that and like let the ninja in? Or I'm not exactly sure what he thought in terms of Yabu at that point.
Well, if he thought Yabu was going to be bad the whole time, I don't really get why he just didn't kill him in the first place. Like he provided no value throughout the book. Anything, he was a deterrent.
Yeah, so he like must have, right? That was because
that's part of the plan. I feel like that's like being like that mistake that they made. That was they fumbled the ball, but he knew they would get the ball back after they fumbled it. It's like, what? It doesn't. I don't give him much credit for that one.
Okay. But a lot of the interesting aspects of it tie into the fact that this being like feudal Japan and Bushido code and whatnot and Buddhism, all that stuff, with him being able to make these audacious like gestures in this political situation, because, okay, well, what's the worst case? I have to kill myself. That's what I've already agreed to do anyways. So I might as well swing for the fences here. Like what's the point?
Yeah, I do think it was interesting too that we find out that we had a little Game of Thrones stuff going on with the Taiko's wife sleeping with
Lady Ochiba,
sleeping with a person that looks like it was kind of like a Game of Thrones stuff going on.
And that was a cool scene.
So he knew about that, obviously. But like, and then he gives him the option of being, you just take everything over, and he's like, nah, I'll kill myself instead of doing that. Which, why?
You're talking about the flashback when it's Lady Ochiba, which is a great scene when she is like, this peasant thinks she's a goddess or a kami and sleeps with her. It's awesome scene. But then you're saying about the whole meeting. I think what he was saying in that meeting, if he had said, okay, yeah, give it to me, whatever the case is, it'd be like, haha, got you. Like, I knew that's what you wanted. He's not bluffing in that he would commit seppuku, because I think he would, but he has to say that in order to not commit seppuku. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's how it goes. But like at the end, there's one last throwaway sentence that he's like, I want to be Shogun. Like he just doesn't he not wanted to be that the whole time? He denied it the whole time.
Point. That's the point, is he's denied it in public or whatever.
But even in his internal monologue, he's been like, nah, I don't want to be it. And the last throwaway sentence is like, and I want to be Shogun. I was like, he spent 50 hours you telling us he didn't want to be it.
I don't think he ever said that in the internal monologue. It was just to other people. But because he was like, my plan the whole time was to be Shogun. These idiots believed me. Of course,
is he going to kill the kid, or how's he going to take it?
No, I think is kind of like what you said, is now what will happen is he'll be Shogun. He could, with Lady Ochiba, he could adopt Yemen as his heir.
So he could have just married her there, and that would have solved things too. I feel like there's a lot of like circular logic here going on, and he could have just married her when he was at the castle early on.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And he's like, I'll never do that because now I'd give her too much power. I'm like, oh, okay. So he really doesn't want to be it, because if he wanted to be it, he'd just do it.
He also said he couldn't sleep at night being married to her because she would slit his throat in his sleep. I mean, she's cunning in this.
Oh, just have her do seppuku. What's that word? I can't say it ever. Seppuku. Just have her do seppuku, right? Like 5 days after you get married. Easy peasy. I mean, let's play with the rules, kid. I mean, it's easy day here. I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, okay. All right. What else do you ever stock up?
Stock up crossing your fingers.
Oh.
Ever do this as a kid? Your parents are like, did you eat that last cookie? And you're like, no. And they're like, you did. Why are you lying? You're like, I was crossing my fingers. Like, it doesn't count. Like, it's like an Uno reverse card. It's like a...
I'm familiar with the idea of crossing your fingers.
It's opposite day, you know? I'm just telling you all the things you could say as a kid to get away with stuff.
Yeah.
That's what they do in this book when Toranaga goes to Buntaro, and Buntaro's like, she cheated on me. She's betrayed me. She'd ruined my honor. And he's like, actually, I made her secret divorce before you left. This is all solved now. Everything's solved. This little Uno reverse card, little cross of fingers. The whole time she was divorced. She could be cheating with you and banging Blackthorn the whole time and embarrassing you to your face. Don't worry about it. I loved it. Great move by Toranaga. No, it's all solved. I post-dated that check. Everything's good.
Yeah, that was all a lie, though.
No, I thought she actually did.
No, that was a lie. He basically said that to make Buntaru think that she did like love him and was honest with him. And basically just to make sure, like, Buntaru didn't go and kill the Anjin-san, like, right there.
Right.
So he was like, no, actually, there's all this great stuff. Like, I said you guys would be divorced and this, that, and the other thing. When really, like, it was Blackthorn that asked for them to be divorced. He was like, I want to marry Mariko. Like, will you divorce them?
But Toranaga asked her if she wanted a divorce, and she said, at one point, she said, I couldn't dishonor him like that. So I didn't think it was that far out of the realm of possibility that he would secretly say, you're going to go to this place, you're going to commit suicide. Also, I'm going to give you that divorce. I'm going to force you to make that divorce now, so you're like free from this dude for that trip.
Yeah, I don't think you can just like do that in the sense you can't be like, oh, you're divorced and then not have anyone aware, and then the only one you should be saving.
Well, if you cross your fingers, you can.
The only one he'd be saving it from would be like her own shame, but like she doesn't have any shame about banging Blackthorn. You know what I mean? They seem very happy together. So, yeah, I think it was just to make sure Buntaru didn't like go crazy, and then also loved his wife in the afterlife and made it easier for him. Less. Okay. If I was him, I'd rather be lied to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You'd rather live your life out because it doesn't matter one way or the other. Like, nothing's going to change. It's only like your mentality. It's probably like more of a philosophical question as to if someone that I'm never going to see again slighted me and someone was like, oh, no, they didn't. I'd be like, oh, all right, cool. And then I just move on with my life. So
release the grudge.
Yeah, exactly. No reason to hold on to that.
Either way, I liked it. I don't care what the. I just like the strategy. I appreciated it.
Okay, I dig it. Speaking about moving on, that's my next stock up, which is moving on, and really, it's a lesson to all the young folk out there, because people.
There's some broad stroke stocks here.
Yeah. But people tend to hold on to things, so it's time to move on. And people in general, we all grow and change in our lives, and just because you were friends with someone for a long time doesn't mean that you have to just keep being friends with them because you were. That was a moment in your life, and it worked out then. But I'm thinking about Blackthorn and his crew here, because Blackthorn, he learned to embrace Japanese culture and the cleanliness that entails, but also just to kind of use this experience to further himself and his crew. He wanted his crew to join him on this endeavor. But his crewmates, disgusting. They live in filth in an Edda village with their lice-ridden doxies, and they're just obsessed with their doxies. If you're trying to bring those close with you on this journey, but instead they're more interested in whoring and living in filth, it's probably best to move on from them. It's as simple as that. And I just found it so interesting because we haven't heard from his crew throughout all of the after the first book. We haven't heard from them books 2 and 3, and then all of a sudden Blackthorn, who's now Hatimoto, decides to I have to go see my crew, and they're just like, where are they taking me? It was such an interesting scene for me because then he's like walking into that like house. That was one of the ones I could like visualize. Like I could see him like clean and samurai walking into this like smoky, gross place with all these like unclean, stinking people. And they're all super jazzed to see him, like splashing grog in his face and no teeth, just smelling. It was like, oh my God, I could almost like feel his skin crawling.
We're thinking of it from our perspective, but I think a more analogous way to look at it would be if your friend, me and you, right, and you go off and all of a sudden you come back and you become a huge germaphobe. And so you're like, I like open the door and you're like, don't, you like have to rub like alcohol on your hands immediately. Like, oh, gross. I can't believe you do that. And I'm like, oh, my bad. Like, and then like we go to a bar and I'm like, hey, you want to take a sip? You're like, no, get that away from me. Like, oh, you drank from that. That's disgusting. Like, oh, this is gross. And you're like constantly. So I think that's the level of change that they're getting into. I would think you joined a cult. I'd be like, what is fucking up with this dude? Like all of a sudden being so mightier than thou and so cleansy. Wow. Yeah, you like that? I kind of can empathize with them. I understand from our perspective, it's obviously gross that like they're living this squalor, but that's just would be a huge difference all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, I agree. Perspective is important, and especially that's how they always lived. I think the lice crawling all over you is probably, as someone that lives in Cape Cod and like tick season is just starting, and I've seen a couple of ticks crawling around on my dog, I'm like, oh, this is disgusting. Like, throw the dog out. Like,
yeah, I don't think there's any period in time or the world where people were like, lice are okay to crawl around you. But then again, you could think germs are crawling all over me, you know? So it's similar thing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think my limit is I have to be able to see them. If they can be seen with the naked eye, that's a good point. Then I'm grossed out.
Yeah, that's fair.
And you can definitely see lice. Trust me, my sister had them in 3rd grade. It was disgusting. So,
oh, wow. Blowing up her spot here. Jeez.
Sorry, T. Sorry, T-Dog. Do you have anything else for Stock Up?
Yeah, last one. Rags to Riches, Stock Up.
Yeah. Little ragged dick. Sorry.
We're back. So usually these stories have the same arc. Come from nothing, you have the typical surge to prominence, and then, you know, you get greedy or your prominent downfall,
little
right?
comeuppance.
Yeah. This one, I think, starts with Blackthorn going from riches, you know, his boat, captain, all this stuff, to rags.
Yeah, pilot major.
And then going to, like, billionaire riches level. Basically going to a new planet and finding things he didn't even realize were possible in terms of riches. And the story ends with like, yeah, his girlfriend died, but he's in a pretty good setup.
Yeah, he gets Kiku, right?
Exactly. Upgraded models. He's, you know, he's basically able to build ships. He's like living the dream. There's no downturn. What's bad's going to happen to him?
Well, he can't leave.
I don't think he would leave. Like I said, he went to another planet that's so good. Why would you leave?
Yeah, I mean, he wants to leave.
I also looked up the real dude, and he had a chance to go back, and he was like, nah.
Oh, really?
I'm going to stay here.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he was like, oh, he got a chance to go back to Europe, and he was like, nah, I'm good. No, I'm going to stay here.
Yeah.
Which I think after 1 or 2 more years, he would have been like, yeah, I'm good. I'm fine with this.
I mean, I would be just based on the cleanliness level, but it is somewhat of a golden cage. You know, you think about, he's got a wife and kids. You know, he misses his wife and kids for sure. And
does he, though? Come on. I mean, the dude took a 4-year trip. You don't really miss your wife and kids that much.
That's just the name of the game, though. That's just how you go.
I don't know about that.
So, I mean, he expressed his interest in
I guess he's like an astronaut, so I guess that is. Yeah. I guess that is. Okay. But like an astronaut could still communicate with their family. So it's a little different.
Yeah, well, of course, but this is different times. I mean, we're also talking about like not long ago, you know, 100 years ago, my grandparents came over on a boat, leaving their family behind to a new country to look for...
Well, that's because they're escaping their German... I mean, anyways, no.
No, they're German. They were Italian, though, so Mussolini. But that was before... That was after...
They came over right around 1945. It was weird. I don't know why they were leaving.
Moved to Argentina, changed their names. Yeah. No, yeah, it's just... I think it's a different time, and like that thing... That's just the way it was. You know, if you want to be one of the best pilots in the world, you have to go out on many years trips. Like that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I think that he's kind of somewhat in a golden cage, and I agree. There's no hero's journey. There's no like downside of like this is the fall.
It was good to see the Rags to Riches because I feel like, or a different model of that, because I do feel like The Last Samurai had the Rags to Riches still, where he like, oh, he's going to have that montage where he starts learning and doing. He had that. Mm-hmm. There's always some, and then he has to sacrifice at the end of the book, or he has to do some, he has to do something that changes things.
It wasn't really that bad in Last Samurai either. At the end, he's like sides with the samurai.
Yeah, but he ended up dying.
He doesn't die in Last Samurai.
Oh, does he not?
No.
Oh,
spoiler
I gotta
alert,
rewatch that.
Yeah, no, he doesn't die. No, the other guy, the samurai, dies. The guy played by Ken.
The last samurai dies?
Yeah.
All right, we're back.
The guy played by Ken Watanabe, he dies.
Oh, God. All right.
So that's why he goes and presents his sword to the emperor and is like, hey, don't forget your roots. And the emperor's like, no more Westerners here. that lasted until the next war. So my last stock up was feigning illness. Stock up. So people do this when they're hungover for work. I've heard of that before in my 20s. I remember those days. But it's actually pretty well used in this book because anytime someone doesn't want to do something or just needs to delay, they're like, yeah, he's sick. Even Hiramatsu's like, once he figures out or Toranaga tells him his plan, he's like, I'm not going to Saka, you psychopath. Like, why would I do that? That's so stupid. And Hiramatsu's like, let me kill myself because I'm so dumb I didn't see that. Like, chill out. Chill out, bro.
I hope that character's in
Hiramatsu's in the show, yeah.
All right, great. I really hope he just doesn't have any lines other than, I'm going to kill myself. He just walks in. That's the first sentence of every time he walks in.
I think it kind of is. I forget. I only saw the first episode. But yeah, it's like Hiramatsu's I'm not going to be able to like play this part. I don't know how to lie like you do. Like, I'm not good at this. He's like, so I'm just going to be sick for now on. It's like, yeah, fine. Just say you're sick. And like everyone is just saying they're sick left and right. And I love it. I mean, I usually do it the other way where I say the wife's sick, of like someone I haven't hung out with in a while. Like, hey, let's do something. And I really should. And I like want to, but also like the couch is calling. So I'll be like, you know what? Care's not feeling that good. Not going to happen.
You've said
this
that
time.
To me a few times. That's weird. What the hell?
Well, you know what? That's just the way it is. His cat's out of the bag now. But yeah, it's a great excuse, and it's good to know that in the 1600s they were still using it to this day as we are.
Yeah, respect.
Yeah, respect. Stock down. What do you have?
I had one, and this is the big one. And
okay.
It's sacrificing pawns, stock down. I mean, you already mentioned it, that he said there's a lot of chess references, which I didn't even realize chess was a thing.
Neither did I, and I'm still not sure it is. But
there's a common phrase in chess: you sacrifice a pawn because it's something of lesser value to get a strategic advantage. Mm-hmm. But I don't care what he says. He treats Mariko as a pawn. He's like, I'm going to bring you over there, and basically you're going to play a role in this, and you're going to die. That's sacrificing pawn is. That's the definition of it right there. Why? Why would you do this? She's a queen. She's a king, if anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's basically the best military strategist that she has. He listens to her more than almost anyone. She speaks multiple languages. Mm-hmm. She is the huge asset for trading, for the religious kind of go-between. What's the word for that?
Emissary? Liaison?
Liaison, that's the word I was looking. She's a liaison for the religious side, the trade side, and even for the European side with Blackthorn. Mm-hmm. He's learning all these military strategies because she's able to communicate that to him. She's just a huge asset, and she picks up a sword and protects him at one point.
Yeah,
she's like a knight in shining armor.
Whoa, knight in shining kimono.
And she, I forgot to mention, she throws Toranaga's ruse or his whole plan. Yeah. So she's the only people that not anyone close to her sees that. Yeah, so it's what a waste of a talent in like I said, a king and a queen combined. The other thing too, I just want to point out is every single woman in this book is the smartest person in the book. They're all the smartest. Toranaga, I guess, is up there, but if you think of Mariko, you think of Yabu's wife, you think of the brothel woman who's like super connected. You think of the Ochiba. They're all super resourceful, super smart. They're all able to see through everything and like actually see strategies. They're not even in the room with these people, whereas the right-hand man and left-hand mans are like, what's going on here? He's acting? Wait, oh my. Are these people idiots? What are we doing? The women here are the key to the society, so let them run shit.
Yeah, Toranaga.
And don't kill Mariko. Bullshit.
Toranaga knows it too, because even when Mariko dies at the end, he's like, I hope you're Buddhist and not this stupid Christian bullshit. And I hope when you're reborn in my company and you're not reborn a man, because your talents would be wasted as one of these idiot men who just go around swinging their sword around thinking they know everything when you're actually the real genius behind it all. And I agree with you on all accounts. She is not a pawn, though. She is a queen, as you said. She's a queen-king combo, whatever the point is. But if he's the king, then she's the queen. And sometimes you have to sacrifice your queen to win the game. And it's so late in the game here that, you can take that move without really setting yourself back, because without Mariko's sacrifice, he then can't take the shogunate. Like, it's that simple. So he needs her.
Couldn't he use his own mom to do it? Do what she did?
To do what she did?
Yeah. Because she's technically held hostage as well, right?
Yeah, but I think the idea is that she's so venerated, like Mariko is so venerated throughout all of the community, and especially within Osaka Castle, within the women themselves. Like the women look to Mariko as like she's the most important woman besides Lady Ochiba. So if she's going to do this, then the other women will then be like, feel comfortable raising their hands and be like, I want to leave too. Wait, I want to leave. I want to leave. And then if she's also going to commit seppuku, it would only be then that Lady Ochiba would turn around and be like, whoa, you can't let her do this. Like this is going to screw everything up. So
yeah. Oh, so she bridges all these different families versus like if just his mom did it, it wouldn't be as big of a sacrifice, you're saying?
she just has more pull. And it's like his mom, of course she would. But even though, Mariko, Lady Toda, is one of his vassals, she still has better ties to the other, she's Christian as well. So Kiyama would be like, whoa, what? You're just going to like kill this Christian girl? As well as the other Christian daimyos. And then it's less of an obvious ruse than like your mom doing it, who's an old lady too. It's like she's going to die anyways. Yeah. So it's sacrificing a queen. But I do understand what you're saying. My first talk down is pillow talk.
Go on, speak to me.
Usually like pre or post-coital pillow talk is fairly benign. Talk about what happened during your day. You maybe talk about a good meal, what's on the agenda for tomorrow, that kind of stuff. It's nothing sinister.
You do like a rating system at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you got a C+ today.
Good for you. Wow.
Yeah, it's usually that's my best record. So
yeah.
I'm just going off my best. But not in feudal Japan, I guess. All these samurai, after they release their silken ropes, they just want to spill the beans on everything they know. So it doesn't.
Once they spill,
Exactly. So it doesn't matter who they're talking to. It's a woman from the Willow world who she's got other suitors. There's people eavesdropping all over the place, and these samurai are just telling them everything they know about people's plans, whatever the deal is. I thought it was just so ridiculous.
You're just agreeing with what I said last time. I was like, they're all emo, and that checks out now, right? Yeah. They're like, oh my God, you won't believe what Toranaga had told me today.
Well, yeah, and I think it's also probably interesting because you're living as a samurai in this like very strict and rigid society where you can't say anything directly to anybody. But the second you get through that jade gate and you unleash your juice, it's like everything else just spills out too. And that makes sense, honestly.
They're like a therapist.
Yeah, also. Yeah, exactly. It's like the only time you can actually tell exactly what's on your mind is like during these times, which is fascinating because it also gives Gyokko, who you were talking about before, a ton of power, and consequently Toranaga the entire empire, because Gyokko puts those whispers into his ear about pretty much everything that's going on. That's also a
Game of Thrones thing, right? Isn't that the whole
that's
Littlefinger or whatever? The brothel?
Yeah, Littlefinger has the brothel, but even the bald guy, Varys, or whatever his name is, I think it's Varys, he's the king of whispers, or whatever the case is.
Right. And like most of it's in the brothels, right? Like they're listening in.
He's got spies everywhere. So the idea of spies is really well used in this as well. But it seems like, the brothels is the best place to do it. And once Toranaga sets up this whole Willow World area of the city, it's just going to be spy haven. He's going to know everything. So pillow talk, stock down, unfortunately. Be careful what you say there. And then lastly, stock down. We probably won't see ourselves in this position, but, it's worth mentioning. Being the guest of a Japanese lord. It seems fun at first. You're the guest of someone very important and you're going to these beautiful dinners and all this fun stuff. But the next thing you know, it's like a bar in the movie A Bronx Tale. They close the door and lock it, and they're like, now you can't leave.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate thing. The funny thing to me in this was how everyone knows they're hostages, but it takes someone like Lady Toda to have her Jesus moment and be willing to sacrifice herself for everyone to be like, whoa, actually being hostage isn't that cool. Like, I want to go home. How did we feel about Lady Ochiba's birthday party when she pretty much continues her so sorries to Ishido? And it's like, no, like, I'm going to go home. Like, my liege lord told me that I have to leave.
Mariko became my favorite character by far by the end of the book because of that scene. That and she's like, well, I'm leaving actually. And this is like the first samurai that comes up to them. And he says, well, by order of, Ishido, I can't let you leave. And she's like, cool. Buddy, kill him.
Yeah.
And he just fucking slits his throat. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And then for whatever reason, she gets all of her samurai killed. And then she's like, I guess I'm not going to do this. And I was like, wait, what? What was the point of that? I wish she killed that first guard and then they started doing it again. And she should have kept all of her boys with her and then been like, listen, I'm not going to kill everyone here. I'm going to commit suicide in 30 minutes. Get your shit together, or I'm right now, not like a day from now. I'm leaving right now, or I'm done.
Well, you need the day, because I think if you said 30 minutes, you wouldn't have enough time for.
That's not my problem, Kev.
You wouldn't have enough time for Ishido and to like actually think about this whole thing.
You didn't hear me on the phone with StubHub, kid. I said if I don't get this ticket in 30 minutes, I will commit seppuku right. I will commit seppuku right now.
Yeah, it's just she did it, and that's why she didn't keep continuing, is because then she didn't want to get captured. Because if she got captured, then she wouldn't be able to kill herself, and then she'd just be captured. So she had to make sure she could get back to.
But she knew she wasn't going to get out. They had like a whole army behind the door or whatever.
Yeah, but that's the point. The point was that so she could make this giant scene in front of everyone at the castle. Ishido's lost face now because of this ridiculous situation. He's stopping her from doing her liege lord's bidding. And so then she's going to have to commit seppuku. And then Ishido has to like think about this whole thing. But like Kiyama's now there and he's like, dude, what? And then Ochiba's like, you can't kill her. You can't let her kill herself. Like, she's super important. It was a very good plan in my mind. What did you have for favorite scene?
I mean, I just already spoiled it.
Yeah, sure.
When she killed that first samurai, I was fucking locked in. And she was like the unmitigated temerity, frankly, of her being like, no, I'm going. And he's like, you'll listen to me. And she's like, yeah, cool. No, I'm going. I love that.
So you're saying
that was like
Lady Ochiba's birthday party.
Both of those.
Oh,
both of those scenes
combined.
where he's like, no, you're not. She's like, that's funny because I am. I was like, I don't give a fuck what you think. I was like, God damn it, let's go. Yeah, Mariko's the best.
Yeah, even Blackthorn during the birthday party was awesome, because everyone's expecting this, like, the barbarians they've seen are priests, so they're expecting someone like that. But then he walks in looking like a samurai, and he's giving gifts to Lady Ochiba, this, flower or whatever. He's just so suave in that situation. The other Japanese women are like, whoa, like, this guy's pretty cool. And then it's him and Mariko.
He's got that katana hanging low, if you know what I mean, kid.
Yeah, and even Ishido tries to like talk trash to him, and he's like, yeah, whatever, like, fuck off. It's like, whoa. And then Kiyama's like, hey, you're never allowed where I am. And he's like, all right, chill out, bro. And then Mariko comes in. It's like, they're the most dynamic duo I've ever seen. It's like, that was the best birthday party anyone's ever been to in Japan. That's
pretty sick. Yeah, I agreed.
I think my favorite scene was the ninja scene, just because it'd be cool, like, in cinema too. And I agree with you that Mariko trying to leave was awesome, because that was our most pitched battle type situation, where a samurai comes up, spouts his name and his lineage, and then they go like one-on-one, and then whoever wins and whoever dies. But then whoever wins then has to go and take the next person. So for the Browns, it was badass, because there's like 20 of them, and even if they killed 30 of the next guys, like, well, they still have to just keep fighting until they die. That was a great scene.
Yeah, made me realize why you like the Rage of Dragon so much, because it was giving me those one-on-one vibes of best man wins type to the death.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Fuck, I miss Rage of Dragons. That was a great book. Yeah, I like the ninja scene just because I said, like, all the cool stuff that the ninjas are doing, and then, like, Blackthorn blasting people through the doors and whatnot. And I've said I'd read this book before, but I forgot. It was a long time ago. I had like an inkling that Mariko died, but I wasn't 100%. So it did hit me kind of hard when she died. When it's like really unfortunate, because it seemed like they were so close to stopping the ninja in general. And then all of a sudden she's gone. And I think, because, our next category here, we just pick your character. And I think we're on the same page, because mine's Mariko. I mean, she was the most interesting character throughout this entire book. She's the most badass. That goes without question. Like, yes, Toranaga might be a better strategist, but she's 1A behind his 1. And in terms of badassery, she's number 1. Blackthorn's 1A. This is a Mariko story. So as much as it's posed as like a Blackthorn or Toranaga situation, like, it's really about her. And especially with the duality between her Buddhist self and her Christian
This
self.
isn't a book if you don't have her in it. She literally connects all the pieces together. Otherwise, she's religious. She can speak another language, so she can talk to Blackthorn. She can speak with Toranaga. She can speak with the other women. You don't have her, there's no story.
Mm-hmm. And even the simplest stuff that I found the most entertaining with her was like her and Gyoku negotiating. It was like so much fun because it's just like these two very smart and cunning women going back and forth about like financial negotiations. It's like, why is this so interesting? But it is. So, and honestly, like you said before, the women in this, they once again showing we men are nothing without them, because we talked about Mariko. We talked about Gyoku.
What is that called? Simping? Are you simping right now?
You had even mentioned Yabu's wife, and it's funny because Yabu's wife had this whole plan for him, and he would probably still be alive if he had his wife with him in Osaka instead of blundering away the plan. She was like, yeah, okay, just be with Toranaga. And he's like, all right. And then he leaves his wife for like 5 minutes. He's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
He's watching Muhammad Ali, and you know, like the fight where he pretends like he's injured and just sits in the corner the whole time? This guy's undefeated. He's the best boxer ever. And he's like, nah, I'm going against him. He must be like sucking this time. And it's like, you don't think this guy is an absolute stud?
Yeah.
What are you doing? That's why I didn't get why they're like, yeah, he's never lost a battle, but all of a sudden he's just an idiot. Huh? Like, what? What are you doing? So, and he really was doing the rope-a-dope.
He was. That's why everyone fell for it, is because, yes, although Toranaga had done so much in his career, it was like, he can't get out of this one. This one's impossible to get out of. But it's also that Toranaga's older and people are younger, and, you know, memory changes things. So,
yeah, I guess that's true.
You know,
right?
When they were younger, they're like, maybe it wasn't that good, but he probably had already done the same thing before. Keith, Shōgun, parts 4 through 6, books 4 through 6, however you want to say it. What did you love about it?
I think this is one of those books that anytime anyone talks about Japan or even mentions Asia, I'm going to bring up. So I never really had read any books that I think that were in Asia, or really, we don't really get a lot of history of Asia, you know, in school.
Yeah,
like, there's not 100%. A ton on that.
We read like the Crane book, 1,000 Cranes, which is like the nuclear attacks on Hiroshima.
All we read was The Good Earth.
No, I never heard that one.
But this is going to be my becoming, you know, anytime anyone mentions it. I was actually in an Uber in Australia, and the guy's like, yeah, Japan's my favorite. I was like, funny enough.
Oh, nice.
Have you read Shōgun?
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, no. I'm like, idiot. Like, what are you doing? You know?
Loser.
It's kind of like a war and peace book, but like for Japan. It's like such a long book, and it's an impressive thing to have in your resume. I really did like it. I thought I'd never even consider visiting Japan, and now I'm like, I think I'd like it.
I mean, for me, it was all I could think about for weeks, you know, to the wife's frustration.
You were speaking Japanese for weeks.
Yeah, and then that's really what was the wife's frustration, is she'd be saying stuff, and I'd be like, oh, Honto? And she'd be like, what? I'd be like, you know, is that the truth? You know, what are you talking about?
She's eating food at the dinner table, you slap out of your hand, you're like, your focus should be on me. You should not be eating right
it's like, why are you eating? You didn't eat before, then you'll eat afterwards. What are you doing?
Yeah, you deal with the finances, and I will sit here and enjoy my meal.
Yeah, exactly. You balance the checkbook, and then I'm going to eat, and you're going to serve me warm sake. But yeah, I mean, really just all the Japanese stuff, just the sayings and whatnot, you know, it'd be like, oh, this and this happened. You know, the washing machine broke. And I'd be like, shigatta ganai. She'd be like, what are you fucking talking about? I'd be like, it is what it is. What are you talking about?
Carmen, eh?
Yeah, Carmen, eh? Yeah, it was awesome. So it was really, because this book is so long and it's so immersive, I was living in it. And I love that very much. I didn't even realize also that I was immersing myself in things like related to Japan. You know, I started watching Blue-Eyed Samurai, which is like an anime show on Netflix that was quite good, which actually takes place, I think I said this on the last time, but it takes place right after this. It's like 1630s, excuse me. And then I started watching like Tokyo Vice, which I didn't even realize was like a Michael Mann directed show, which is really interesting, and also mostly in Japanese. So I was like diving into Japanese stuff. Plus I was doing all this World War II stuff, which tied back into it. So yeah, it was great. I just really dove into the Japanese cultures, or at least pseudo cultures based on these other, you know, pop culture things. But it was fun. What else? Do you have anything else?
Yeah, ultimately, the things I think we'll remember is Banzai and a couple of the major scenes. Mariko, I think, was sick. I just think the culture itself is like rubbed off in terms of like what the history was like there. So I think that's the biggest like overarching thing that I'd take away.
Yeah, and to that point, a lot of this, I don't know. We're not going to go back and study Japanese history, so we might be absolute idiots in the sense of that we're making this seem like it's, written in stone, but it might be apocryphal. But if it was somewhat realistic, which I think it was, it made learning fun. Like, imagine if this was
like it felt like history.
But with like a really fun story behind it. And some guy that wrote a book about Shōgun or something like that, he said, and I quote, he said, "It's a virtual encyclopedia of Japanese history and culture. Somewhere among those 500,000 words, one can find a brief description of virtually everything one wanted to know about Japan." And I think that just sums it up so well, because we heard this awesome story, but I also feel like I do kind of know what it was like for a peasant to a feudal lord to live in 1600 Japan.
I mean, historical fictions, that's why I think we like them. You get a taste of history and then you get a good story. It's not one or the other. It's a little bit of both. It's nice.
Yeah, we might have to read some Shura books, like the Gettysburg one or the one before, because those are great historical fiction too. What'd you hate?
It's 50 hours, not the best payoff, but I'd love to have some little bit more closure there. I also think there should have been a little bit more closure for some of the side characters. We get introduced to a lot of these people, and I don't feel like we really got the true ending for a lot of the characters that I would like to see. So I think just overall closure would be the kind of thing I would underline there, where if you're going to make it 50 hours, I kind of need some sort of finale, if you will.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's with me as well. More battles. I need more samurai fighting. I'd love to have like one actual pitched battle just to see how that fight went out. Because I watched Napoleon recently, the Ridley Scott, Joaquin Phoenix movie.
Yeah.
You heard about it? Yeah. It wasn't an awesome movie, honestly, but the pitched battle scenes were super fun. It's like, this is, and a lot of times, Braveheart, I like that movie. I haven't seen it in a really long time, but I do remember the battle scenes. It's something I wish there was more of. I'm trying to think about the actual fights that were in here. We have like an Osaka street fight when Toranaga attempts to leave. We got Yabu ambushing Joseon, which is really just like a couple of guys just like killing other guys who are running away. We have obviously the Browns versus Greys and Mariko's attempt to leave, and the ninja fight. And I think that's pretty much it, besides some arrows killing people and like some other.
Yeah, I don't need like a huge battles either, but it's just I feel like they built it up. The big war is coming, and then you can't keep on saying that and then be like, and then the war happened, and we're not there for that.
Well, I want the pitch battle just because I want to know how it works. Because now you got all these samurai. They're talking about big numbers of samurai here, like bigger than any battle that would happen in Europe at the time. We're talking, 50,000s on top of each other. So I want to see how that fight turns out.
And then the last thing I would say, and I think if they were written today, this is how it would be written. I would have just done 5 characters from their perspective. So I would have done Toranaga, so like the perspective of a leader, Blackthorn, fish out of water, Mariko, the like woman and like her ability to like kind of almost translate everything that's going on. Omi, the rising of like a star through the ranks, what he's seeing, someone that's lower on the totem pole, but like, seeing that. And then Rodrigues are a priest, so you get like the religious aspect. That's like the 5 main themes. And I really think they just kept it within those, and then you understand their voice. So you like get in this ahead of each of these people. And if we see Tornado earlier and Mariko earlier, because they're such good characters, I think that would have been a much better way to do it. Because then you think you get much easier or a full picture of everything versus like we get into like a random head of certain people, and I'm like, I don't care about this person that much. But like these 5 people, I think were the best characters, and they would have told you everyone's story.
Did you like Mura finding out at the end that Mura, who's like the village leader under Omi, he was the one who was Toranaga's spy in Anjiro, was like Mura, who's like the head leader, who's a peasant, but he's a Christian peasant or whatever the case is. But it turns out like, Toranaga says at the end that, what would they think if they had realized that Mura was actually a samurai that I had planted in the village like 35 years ago? And I think he was like, I think he would fart, which I always love how they like say, like, someone would fart as like, be surprised. But it was just, I thought that was super cool because he's just like this village guy, peasant village man who the whole time we're thinking is with the Christian daimyos, and he's going to like secretly be smuggling guns because that's what like Yabu wanted, or, the Christians wanted. It's like, oh, they're going to be smuggling guns and they're going to rise up against their liege lords. But actually Mura the whole time, it's like, no, I was a samurai who was sent on this discrete mission 35 years ago to infiltrate this village, and I've been pretending since then. So it's like, oh, fuck, this is cool. Toranaga really had it all figured out, so I really like that. My last hate, it's So Sorry. And honestly, I thought there was a perfect amount of So Sorries and Please Excuse Me's. But maybe I just got used to it because for me, audiobooks are like green eggs and ham. I would eat them in a boat, I'd eat them with a goat, I'd eat them in the rain, I'd eat them on a train, you know, I'd eat them with a fox in a house and a mouse, and I'd eat them here and anywhere, I'd eat them everywhere. That's how I deal with audiobooks, is like I always find myself listening to them, whether I'm, you know, outside working in the yard or just, you know, making dinner, whatever the case is. And one of my favorite places to enjoy an audiobook is while I'm taking a shower because, you know, the acoustics are right. You really get into the story.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I got a little JBL clip, you know, maybe a sponsor in the future, and you hang that on the shower door or whatever and you listen to it for 15 minutes. But the wife will overhear books from time to time. She'll comment because I'm playing them in the shower, you know, she's around. And her only comment for this book was, well, these characters sure do apologize a lot. Like, she's pretty much like, did he just say so sorry like 26 times?
That was my stock down. I was like, they apologize way too much, and then apologies don't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, do they just start to not mean anything? And I would honestly like to see the stats. Like, I'm sure someone probably on Reddit or something might have done this, but it's got to be an extra like 20 pages of so sorry. Like, if you just took out all the so sorries, it's got to be like 20 pages of actual writing. I'm going to give it a hate, but I thought it was all right. But it was just funny from like a third person perspective. And it was funny as I was watching the first episode, I was like waiting for it. I was like, when are they going to say so sorry? And they only said it once, I think.
Yeah, I don't think you could actually do that in a real
well, obviously.
script. Yeah.
They like hand the pilot to FX and they're like, it just says so sorry like 30 times and please excuse me. One lingering question, I think we kind of addressed it, but does Blackthorn leave Japan? Do you think he leaves?
I don't think he does.
Toranaga makes it clear that he's not leaving. He's like, he's
not gonna
leave.
But I think eventually he just decides, I'm gonna stay here. I don't want to. It's too long of a trip back. It's too hard. I'm gonna just build a military here, and then eventually the Europeans will come over, and I'll get a message out. Like that's what I think he's doing, because I think he eventually is just going to become Japanese fully. And
so you think his wife's like mourning him being lost at sea, lighting a candle every night as he's living like a king in Japan, taking Kiku to the tatami every night.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I know Toranaga doesn't want him to leave, but the prestige and honor of him going back to England with like, I'm the first person to visit the Japans, like, here's these emissaries, here's all the stuff I've learned. He could actually become like a huge lord in England for doing it. And I feel like he'd miss his culture eventually. He'd like kind of forget about all the shittiness. And so I think he would go back, and I think he would get his family and bring them to Japan. That's what he'd be like, Toranaga, this is going to help you. He convinced Toranaga it's going to help him. And he'd go back to England, get them a bunch of warships made, like spend like 2 years. He'd be teaching his family Japanese over that 2 years, like teaching them to like enjoy fish and to like clean up after themselves, and then he'd take them.
You think he's
Japan.
A good family man? I think he actually hates his family. So I mean, that's the difference. I think he's gonna convince Toranaga that let's get the middleman out and let's ride. Let's fucking get the military going here. Let's get a couple ships built. Let's get a fleet going. Let's gotta create a blockade.
He's a little Gone in 60 Seconds, a little Let's Ride.
Let's ride. Exactly. Nick Cage him real quick.
All right, Keith, we've talked about Shōgun for approximately like 3 hours and 30 minutes, which is 0.1% of the total book. Would you recommend this book to someone who has maybe only seen the show or hasn't seen it at all?
Yeah, you got to strap in for this one. It's kind of like a long flight. If you were to go into a flight not knowing it's 10 hours, you know, it might be tough. But if you know it's 10 hours, it's doable, and I think it's worth your while to get to that place you want to go. You know, and that's wow, great analogy.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Crushing it after going on a 16-hour flight. Yeah.
I really liked it. Could it have been 30 hours? Yeah, definitely could have been. Could have been 25 probably, but I mean, that's okay.
Did you feel like it lagged in any places though? And you're like, oh my God, get through this.
No, not necessarily. I do think it became a history book in some instances, or it became a little bit repetitive too, where you're like, I'm locked in on the culture now. You don't need to like drill it home anymore. But I definitely felt like it just became kind of part of my day. I was like, oh yeah, I got to turn this on. And it's just like, in the background of my head almost.
And for some of the explanations is like, a lot of the time is like explaining what like Blackthorn was eating. It's like, oh, he's eating the fish the way he likes it now, like charcoal over fire with some vinegar and rice and this, that, and the other thing. But it almost brings you back into the story. It's like, okay, now you're like the details, you don't get like lost in them necessarily. You're just like now visualizing part of the story. Like it helps.
Like some of my favorite parts of Harry Potter are when they're not moving the story forward. They're just like in class.
They're just living in the wizarding world.
Yeah, that's what's really cool to me. So I get that.
I'd obviously recommend it. I mean,
where's this going in the top?
It's one of my favorite books
10.
of all time. I think actually I like it less than I did in my memory, but I also like put that on a pedestal in my memory. It'd be tough to put in a top 10. I also hadn't read Red Rising at that point, which... it's just such a fucking great book. So, and I think that's both of our number ones. It'll probably slide into 2 for me. I don't think it'll top Red Rising. And I'm not necessarily, so this is why it's tough to like do a top 10, because I'm not necessarily saying that like Red Rising is a better book, because I'm a huge history buff. I love that stuff. I also just like really fun stories. And this covered both of those things. It's just that Red Rising, for it being like just a super fun kids story kind of, but that also not like for kids, because there's some fucked up shit that happens in those books.
Yeah, I don't think it's a YA book. But,
it's an adult book that's like marketed for YA, which is fucked up. So this is just, it's almost like a different beast, but with that, I think in terms of the amount of time it takes to read this one, yeah, exactly. The pound per minute, the amount of pound of flesh I'm taking per minute out of that, I'm gonna stick with Red Rising, but it goes number 2. Are we planning on doing the show for an episode?
I think we should.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay. So I don't want to talk too much about it, but I will say I am a little upset I read the book so close to watching the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm more nitpicky, and also because I just invested 50 hours of my life to this book. I like want it to hit perfectly. It's a really good show. There's no question about it. It's just I'm having a tough time fully investing in it. Is it
made for people that didn't read the book? Probably. It's like, we gotta do this stuff.
I don't even know if it is, because it's also all in Japanese. There's like, it's all subtitles. Yeah, there's like very little English, which is awesome. I'm such a dick too. Like, I'm watching it with Caroline and she's half paying attention, and I'm like, oh, actually he'd probably be speaking Dutch here. And I'm like, why am I saying that?
Jesus
like,
Christ.
I'm such a fucking idiot. Like, I hate myself sometimes. I'm like, oh, elitist piece of shit here. But I will say it is beautiful. Everything about it is beautiful. Like, seeing these samurai in armor and stuff like that, like things that I have trouble imagining, was so cool to see. And just like Anjiro itself, which is like this like little wooded village, and like I'm thinking about it so much differently. It was fun. So I think we're gonna have a good time chatting about it. I think I need to just kind of like forget about the book and just watch the show and enjoy it.
I hear you.
All right, well, Keith, we did Shōgun. I'm really proud of us. I'm really proud of you. Thanks for sticking with me on this journey. It's a long one. I'm always proud of you. What do we got coming up next?
Next, we got Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. That's a quick one, so we needed a little decompress, a little something quick. And then after that, we got The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Got a couple good ones slated up here, and so hope you all join us.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. We'll do a little English class high school book, 5 hours, something like that, and then back into some Joe Abercrombie. All right, Keith. Well, it has been fun. If people don't like this, shikata ganai. No, just kidding. I love you anyways. I'll catch you for Slaughterhouse-Five.
Alrighty.
Sayonara.
Oh, sayonara. All right, bye.